Swati Maliwal, thank you so much for joining us on UpFront. Can you explain some of the main forms of femicide and how they affect everyday women?
I would like to just explain to you what all is actually happening. I head the Delhi Commission for Women. It is a statutory body in India. And every day in Delhi itself, 6 rapes are happening. 8-month-old baby was recently raped in the capital. And I had gone and visited the girl. The way she was bleeding, she was in an intensive care unit. The entire hospital, the entire nurses, everybody, the doctors. I mean, everyone had to put in so much effort in order to just save that child. An 8-month-old baby was raped. A 90-year-old woman is raped. So the kind of rapes and the kind of sexual crimes that are happening in our country are really, really horrific. So everything from domestic violence to being discriminated in your workplace, to sexual harassment in the workplace, to cyber stalking, to the child being killed in the womb itself. All of these kind of crimes are happening on a very, very large scale in the country, and I think even world over. After COVID, the kind of domestic violence incidences that have increased everywhere across the world, it is quite sad. And even in India, the number of cases have gone up, like it's been quite bad.
Indeed, Swati, the latest available data says in India, 29.5% of women have experienced physical violence since the age of 15. And in 2018, India was named the most dangerous country in the world to be a woman due to the high risk of sexual violence and slave labor. What's at the root of this?
I think the root is patriarchy and misogyny, like in any other country. Root to all kind of sexual violence is that the man actually feels very, very powerful. He feels that he can get away with anything. And in India especially, the justice systems are so bad that people actually have no fear. They feel that they can get away with all kinds of violence and crimes. And that is, I think, the major root. Cause of all these issues. Another thing is that our politicians, I think there's a complete lack of will. Most politicians, actually many of them, they get away with very shameful statements. Recently, we had the Uttarakhand government's chief minister who said that rapes happen because girls wear short clothes. Similarly, there are people who say that rapes happen because girls are having mobile phones. They say that rapes are happening because girls are eating Hakka noodles. So all kinds of statements are made by these political people, and they actually get away with it. So I think the root cause, like the world over, is patriarchy and misogyny and the failure of the system to put any kind of checks against it.
In 2020, Delhi, the national capital, reported more rapes than the other union territories in India. You're part of the AAP, has been leading the government of Delhi since 2015 and promised to ensure the safety of women. What's happened?
I think just the fact that a particular state is reporting more cases doesn't mean that the crime in that particular state is more. I don't agree with that. Because you see, at least in Delhi, the reporting is happening. You have states like the Uttar Pradesh, you have other states in the country where reporting is not there, where people are not even having the courage to come up to the police station to report, and even the police is failing to report these cases. So I think it is not about Delhi. I think it is about the entire country, and the situation remains the same everywhere.
Right, but Swati, let's assume that that's the case, and that Delhi is no more dangerous than any other place. The question still remains, if the AAP, ran and is committed to ensuring the safety of women, has it failed to do so? And if so, why?
So I'm not saying that Delhi is less dangerous than other places in the country. I'm saying all places in the country, including Delhi, are equally dangerous. As far as the Aam Aadmi Party government, as far as the Delhi government is concerned, you see there is a very weird state of affairs in the national capital. The law and order of the national capital doesn't come under the Aam Aadmi Party. It comes under the central government. That said, I think that all parties of the country, everybody, all political leaders, whether it is Mr. Modi, whether it is Mr. Kejriwal, everybody has to come down together and actually help this issue, somehow make sure that systems are in in place, that police gets its resources, that accountability is set, that some kind of a message is given to criminals that if you do any crime, you will not be spared, and within 6 months there is going to be you will be given the punishment. So I think strong systems need to be made, and I think all governments have to come together to be able to do that.
What role can or should the police play? Do you fundamentally trust the police to properly respond to the issue of sexual violence against women?
We have to trust our systems. We have to just create better systems. So police has to be trusted. It's just this, that they need to be there. Accountability needs to be set. Delhi police has been demanding for the past 13 years 66,000 police personnel from the central government, and it has failed to get any. I had to sit on a 10-day, 13-day long hunger strike in order to get 3,000 police forces for the state of Delhi. So how many more hunger strikes do people like us have to do in order to get what is the due of the Delhi police? But not just that, resources aside, the fact is that if they're not accountable and if you just add more resources to them, nothing will change. So I think it is important that accountability is set, that resources are given, and systems are created. You see, if you create good systems, then justice the systems can be delivered. And
I understand your point about systems and accountability, but there's also an ideological piece of this. For example, in Delhi, over half of police officers surveyed said they believed either a high or a very high amount of gender-based violence complaints were false and motivated. So even if we add more police and make them more accountable, if they fundamentally don't believe women, will any of it matter?
Of course, the entire system, right from the politicians, right from the police, right from the doctors, the nurses, everybody, the entire system needs to be sensitized. But how do you sensitize a system like that? How do you sensitize so many people in one go? You do it by creating better systems. So if a woman comes and reports a case to a police station, right from the time the first police officer meets that woman till the time her case is actually the conviction happens, the entire system needs to be made more sensitive. If you ensure that an 8-month-old baby who was raped, if you ensure justice to her within 6 months through the justice system, through the police, through all of the different people who have different roles in this process, that is when there will be a message in the society that you cannot you cannot just get away with crimes against women.
Let's talk about what justice looks like for you. In 2019, you went on a 12-day hunger strike demanding the death penalty for individuals who are convicted of raping minors. But according to the Death Penalty Information Center, there hasn't been any conclusive evidence that the death penalty reduces crime. In fact, the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights has said, quote, "Evidence shows that the certainty of punishment rather than its severity deters crime." How do you respond to that argument?
A 5-year-old girl was raped in my country. She was gang raped. Her eyes were gouged out. Each and every bone in her body was first broken. She was strangled, and then they killed her. What do you explain to her parents? What do you think justice looks like for them? While my hunger strike, I sat one day. Once I sat on a hunger strike, it lasted for 10 days. On the 10th day, the government passed an ordinance that all cases of crimes against women will be disposed of within 6 months. And in the rarest of the rare cases, and in the important cases, in the cases where something really horrific has happened, the death penalty will be given. On the 10th day of my hunger strike, when this ordinance came, I broke my hunger strike. Again, I had to sit after a year and a half on another hunger strike for 13 days.
But Swati, my question is about, I just don't want to move too far away from the question, which is, if the evidence shows that the death penalty doesn't reduce crime, why do you still want it? It sounds like you're saying, and I wanted to make sure I'm characterizing your words correctly, that as almost revenge, that the death penalty is the proper response, that even if you knew that the death penalty, or let me ask it differently, even if you knew that the death penalty wouldn't reduce the number of rapes that occur in the country, would you still support the death penalty in the cases that you described?
All I'm trying to say is my first and foremost demand is that each and every case, that justice should be delivered. And it should be delivered in a particular time frame within 6 months. All the processes, they need to happen within 6 months, and that needs to be done. After that, yes, I I am talking on behalf of all these sexual assault survivors whom I'm meeting almost every day. Their pain has become my pain, and I think whatever the surveys and whatever the studies might suggest, I think drastic times call for drastic measures. What needs to be done is you need to give strong punishments in each and every case. And yes, in cases which are completely horrific, which shock the conscience of the nation, certain very, very drastic steps like the death penalty should be. And that due punishment is not a form of revenge. What is important is that if that punishment is given, a message goes across to the people that they cannot get away with it. Today, what is happening is that a person commits a crime, goes to the jail for a bit, comes out on bail, and then is committing the same horrific crime again and again and again. So, how do you ensure that a country as large as ours, how do you ensure that there are systems that are in place to ensure that people have that kind of fear that they cannot get away with crime? I want increased accountability of police. I want increased resources. I want better forensics. I want better shelter homes. I want better rehabilitation. So those are the systems and those are the needs that one is, trying to fight for. And I very strongly believe in systems. I believe that if justice is delivered in time, a lot of change can happen, and that is what the fight is for.
Swati Maliwal, thank you so much for joining us on UpFront.